Hi everybody and welcome to the plughead.net review of the Catz S.T.R.I.K.E 7 gaming keyboard. Now this is the first video review we've done for plughead.net, as you can probably tell from the incredible production values you'll see over the next few minutes, but it's actually necessary. Mad Catz tell us that this is the world's most adjustable gaming keyboard, and there is quite simply a vast amount to tell you about it. If we'd stuck to a traditional written review, then we'd be very quickly into the too long didn't read category. There's loads to talk about. What we're going to do over the next few minutes is talk about a bunch of stuff. We're going to start off with the modular design. As you can see, it comes in lots of different bits and you can configure them more or less however you want. After that, we're going to move on to what it's actually like to use. Does it type nicely? Is it nice to look at? Is it going to last you for a good number of years? After that, if you can see the touchpad thing there, it looks a bit like a smartphone attached to a keyboard, that's a VENOM interface, and we'll be going into that and just talking briefly about the various functions and things you can expect from that. Following that, brief section on the software, how you can configure those macro keys you see lurking all over the keyboard, and a few conclusions. Now, if you do prefer a standard written review, you can find it at worldwideweb.plughead.net. And without further ado, it's time to get started by looking at the keyboard design. So let's get started and have a look at the modular design of this beast. First thing to say is it does come in a really nice box and it's very compact, almost Nintendo-like levels of packaging awesome. And that's important because this is the kind of keyboard that you would really want to take round to your mate's house to show them, or to LAN parties, just to show off a little bit. It's very nicely made indeed, and it really does have a wow factor. What we're looking at now is the main keyboard. This is where all the main keys are, with the numeric keys come on a separate pad. But this one has been designed so that actually if you are travelling, this is all you need to take with you. All of the numeric keypad functions are covered on here. So we've got the page up, the page down, the home and the end keys on that side there. So really, apart from this and the V.E.N.O.M touchscreen interface, which provides the power, you could travel light with this if you wanted to. Other quick thing to show you is that it's very nicely made. If you look on the rear side, kind of hard to do on this camera angle, but you can see that it's actually a metal framed keyboard. This is a nice non-slip plastic, the kind you get for mice. It's reasonably nicely, it's very nicely made. And the keyboard action, you can hear there, solid, precise, actually very pleasant to type on. So that's the main unit. As I say, you can travel with that on its own. It's very compact and it's quite nice. Next unit to show you is the numeric keypad, and this comes separately, and it's a numeric keypad. Nothing more to say than that really. Here you can see the build quality a little bit better. Very nicely done. Feels solid, feels chunky, feels heavy. It's not the kind of thing that's going to be flying off your desk and ending up in a heap somewhere. Now, the way this works is that you can see it's modular. Essentially, this just slots into that, clicks, and Mad Catz give you a couple of screws for locking it in there as well if you want to. That doesn't mean that you have to lock one part of the keyboard into the other part of the keyboard. They actually also give you a 65cm extension cable, which essentially means that you can take the numeric keypad and put it on a pull-out desk. For example, if you have one of these computer desks that has a pull-out tray, sometimes there's not really enough room for a gaming mouse, a gaming keyboard, and a full-size numeric keypad on there as well. You can use the extension cable to maybe lift the keypad around a little bit. The other way you could use it is if you're a left-hander and you want the keypad on the left, but you want to use your right hand for the WASD keys, for example. So you could move that over there and have this kind of layout. Now that doesn't slot together quite so well, but it's something that you could do if you wanted to. The other thing to tell you about is the V.E.N.O.M interface. Now this comes with loads and loads and loads of wires. This is almost like a touchscreen phone device that slots into your keyboard. It slots into either section of the keypads, so it can be on the numeric or on the main keypad, and it's simply a matter of just doing that. And the job is now done. Lots and lots of wires. As As you can see, they are very, very neat, actually, when it comes to full assembly. So don't worry about that too much. It actually comes with a reasonably detailed instruction manual as well, so it's not hard to put together. It takes maybe about 10 minutes to put together first time. Another component that you'll be noticing is a macro keys, set of macro keys. These are 4 macro keys, fairly nicely clickable. They fit on either the numeric keypad or on the main keypad, and if I can get it right, they just slot in. There you go, slot in, and there's a plug that just plugs it into the main part there. So actually you're already getting the idea that this is actually a fairly flexible keyboard. You can use it however you wish. That's not all though, it comes with extra stuff. You have wrist rests. There you go, that's a wrist rest. Here is another wrist rest. Just here, you'll see what these look like later. And the most cool wrist rest of all is one that slots either into the numeric keypad or into the main key part, and this is a fully adjustable extra set of keys. Essentially what you've got is you've got a mouse left, a mouse right, and an extra key there. If you're using it in a right-handed manner, you can see that it actually just slots into the keyboard there, and what you've got is a nicely adjusted wrist rest. You can use your WASD keys quite nicely, you've got an extra thumb key, you've got an extra mouse wheel, and that's height adjustable as well, so that's all very nice. Final things that this comes with is an extra set of keys, some screws for putting it all together, and quite useful. One of the problems I find with these type of keyboards, and you'll see the illumination later on, is that sometimes the paint effects can wear off a little bit, and after a couple of years the keyboard doesn't look quite as good as it did before, and some of the keys get very heavy wear. As you can see from this box of accessories, you've got extra WASD keys, both in black and white, and you've got extra arrow keys as well. So the keys that are getting the most wear, you have replacements for them, which is a really, really nice touch. So that's the way the keyboard looks. What we're going to do next is actually plug it into the computer. You can see how it looks when there's actually power to it. This is a powered keyboard. You will need a power supply to get the most out of it. And we'll actually have a play and we'll have a type on it. Let's show you what that's like. Here we are with a fully assembled Catz S.T.R.I.K.E 7 keyboard in its default configuration. And the first thing to notice is, doesn't it look great? As you take it out of the box, all those wires do look a little bit scary, but here they are very nicely channeled behind the main keyboard. You can hardly see any cabling at all here. The cabling to the power supply is very neat. The cabling from the macro keys are very neat indeed. So this is the default configuration, but actually it looks pretty good. Just to remind you what we've got, we have here on the left hand side a set of macro keys. There are extra macro keys here on the numeric keypad. There are some on the V.E.N.O.M pad itself as well, but these are your main ones. These are your fast action macro keys. You can have them here, you can have them attached to the numeric keyboard if you want them. We've got all your wrist rests. They look pretty good now they're in place, and you can see that this one is for right-handed people. You put it here and it gives you those functions, those extra keys as you're controlling your game. You've got your V.E.N.O.M interface. The V.E.N.O.M interface provides you with a lot of functions, and we'll be looking at that next. And finally, just to say that you can actually separate out that part of the keypad if you want to. It comes with the extension cable. You can have it on the left, you can have it on the right, floating away slightly from the main keyboard unit. So it looks great, but how does it perform? Let's have a type. So here we are with the keyboard. And the first thing I'm going to do is shut up and just type a few sentences for you so that you can hear what the keyboard's like. You can hear whether it's noisy, whether it's quiet, whether it's the kind of thing that you can live with for the next couple of years. So here goes. Here's a couple of test sentences just so you can hear what the keyboard sounds like. There you go, some random stuff at the end for you as well. As you can hear, it's not the loudest keyboard in the world, it's not the quietest keyboard in the world, it's somewhere in between. And there's a reason for that. First of all, it's not a mechanical keyboard. There's a thing amongst gamers that we prefer mechanical keyboards. We like their response, we like their reliability. Mad Catz haven't used a mechanical keyboard. It's a membrane keyboard, and there's a reason for that. And that is this lovely lighting effect that you get there. Essentially, this is a halo lighting illumination effect. The entire key bed lights up, and there are transparent bits in the middle of each key that shine through as well. It looks incredibly cool, and one of the biggest things about this keyboard is its wow factor. That wouldn't be possible with a mechanical keyboard. You can just change the colours on here to anything you like. You can program and select any colour you want, and as you can see, imagine that at night. That's going to look really good on your desk. That wouldn't be possible with a mechanical keyboard. The other thing is that they've precisely engineered the response that you've got from this. I'm told that it's very like a cherry brown keyboard, so it feels like a mechanical keyboard even though it's a membrane, and it gives you this cool effect as well. So actually, not a bad keyboard in terms of typing. I can tell you that since I've been using it for the last couple of weeks, my typing, my typos have decreased a lot in comparison with the Logitech G15 that I've been using before. It's a very, very nice, soft keypad to type on. One final thing we need to talk about in terms of the keyboard is the ghosting response. If you've not come across it before, ghosting is an effect where, and it happens with virtually every keyboard, but it's an effect where you hold down a number of keys, and if you've got a certain number of keys pressed down, other keys are not recognised. Now, this isn't an anti-ghosting keyboard, but it actually performs fairly well. Again, it performs marginally better than my old-fashioned Logitech G15, so I never had a problem with that. It's a pretty good performing keyboard. It's not perfect. What Mad Catz have done is put a lot of concentration into the WASD keys. You can press virtually any other key with the WASD keys, press down all four of them, and it will be recognised. The same with the arrow keys as well. Away from those areas, it is possible to make it ghost. It is possible to find key combinations that won't be recognised. For example, 0, 1 and 2 won't be recognised all at the same time. But that's such a very minor thing, and as I say, it is much better than similar gaming keyboards I've come across. If you want to get better performance than that, you're going to have to buy a deliberate anti-ghosting keyboard. I don't think you'll find a problem with it. I certainly haven't found any ghosting problems at all over the 2 weeks that I've been using it. So overall, pretty nice keyboard to use. Very impressive illumination factor. The next thing we're going to be looking at is this beast, the VENOM interface itself. So for the next stage on our Magical Mystery Tour, we're going to be looking at the VENOM touchscreen interface. Now this is something that does quite a few things for you. First of all, it's an operating system for the keyboard. It has the power for the keyboard. It does a lot of the functionality of the keyboard is driven through the VENOM, so it's the kind of thing that you would probably want to have plugged in most of the time. You can get away without it if you just wanted to use the main keyboard unit and take it away with you a lot. If you've got your own USB to micro USB lead, you can get away without using the VENOM at all. But it adds in one or two nice extra little features, so we'll cover those now. First of all, you can see it's quite a chunky unit. Essentially, it's a reasonable sized touchscreen with some hot buttons around it. I'll quickly go through what those are. You have a volume plus a minus button here. You have a microphone mute button, and you have a quick access to full speaker mute button on there as well. On the right hand side, with this keyboard you can set up a number of macros. Each of those macro profiles can have 3 sub-modes, and this is where you select between your sub-modes. And you can just about see the colours changing as I select them. They're also indicated on the big Mad Catz logo there, so you can tell you're in a different profile and getting different key functionality if that's what you've programmed. Next thing is that there's lots of different icons, 12 different icons actually on the screen itself, and the home screen, so you can always get back to this page, is this big button here. So what we're going to do is just give you a quick magical mystery tour of each of those individual buttons, just to let you know what they do. I'm going to zoom in. We're going to probably lose focus a little bit because it is a very cheap camera, but hopefully you can see enough to get the gist of what these are. So on the top line you've got time and date, and then a number of different icons here. It is set up for fingertip display. I'm using a stylus just so you can see it and my fingers don't get in the way. So the first icon is a quick launcher. You can use the supplied driver software essentially to drag and drop icons here and executables on here. Press any of those and the program that's associated with them will quick launch. Essentially just here I've only got a 2 here, Skyrim, which I've used an awful lot for testing the keyboard, and another program as well. Essentially press that, Steam will boot up, as will Skyrim. Next on the interface there's a volume button, media buttons, that's essentially all they are. So play, pause, rewind, the kind of thing you'd expect to see on many gaming keyboards. The next icon is actually pretty cool, it's very useful. It's the volume control. Now what you can see here is you've got the soft versions of the hard keys here, so that's your microphone volume and your overall master volume, but also something that's really excellent is that every application that you ever run using the Venom keyboard has its own volume control, its own separate volume control. So here I've only got a couple of applications running. I've got Google Chrome running and I've got main Windows running as well. Each of them can be set differently. So that means when you're playing around with your various different game volumes, your Mumble session for example, your Steam session, your various different gaming applications, you can set each of the volumes independently. And although I've only got 2 running, that's on a slidable interface here, every application will show. So it basically means that you can configure your sound very, very easily. There's no need to jump out of your game and start playing with volume settings in the old-fashioned way that you're probably used to. Lovely little feature that. Next thing round is your keyboard. This talks about your keyboard backlight. If you remember earlier I was talking about you could set any keyboard colour you want. Let's do a quick demonstration of that. Let's say orange, red, orange, green, blue, purpley, and a kind of pinky thing there. So those are the presets, but you've got any combination of 255 by 255 by 255 colours on the red, the green and the blue, and you can set them independently. It remembers them between sessions, and you can also set the brightness there. So if you want your keyboard to look really cool, that's the button that you want to go to. Next couple are really straightforward, just quickly cover them. One is the clock. You get the analog clock by default, and you get the digital clock by clicking on it. You have various stopwatches on there. You have various timers. If you like to use those to time your gaming sessions, now you can. Something else that's quite useful is a Windows key. The Windows key does get in the way of gaming quite a lot. If you hit it inadvertently, it sometimes can pop up a Windows button, a Windows window, and get in the way of your games. If you don't want that to happen, you can quickly lock it using that. Now I have found that's a setting that doesn't tend to be remembered between sessions, so that will either be sorted out in a future software release for the Venom panel, or it's something you just have to get used to setting every time. On the bottom we've got some more interesting buttons. This one here is your overall settings for your Venom keypad. That's a touchscreen calibration. This shows that I've got the whole keyboard set to UK input. Here is the Venom display itself's brightness, and here is the timeout for when I want it to auto dim in the background. I've got that set for 2 minutes. So, nice little function. Next are your macros. Now this is a keyboard that comes with lots and lots of macros. You have 4 quick access macros on the spine device that we talked about earlier, where you've got 5 on the numeric keypad itself, and you have another 12 actually on the Venom unit. So basically you just stab one of these in your game and it will run the macro that you set. You set those using the driver software. We'll be looking at that next. Something else that's useful here is your journal. Now your journal is something that you can use to take notes on your games as you're going through them. If you've got very good eyesight, you may see that I've been using it for Skyrim, and I've got a test note here as well. So all you need to do with that is press the plus key that opens up the journal, type in whatever message you need, and then return, and it's stored for your later viewing pleasure. Something that's quite useful, I suppose, if you play lots of role-playing games or if you take notes on games as you go through, you can use that. That is stored between sessions. You can come back to it. You can see that I'm saying that there's a following at Night Stalker Temple, which will be useful for me next time I play Skyrim. And finally, to talk about TeamSpeak. Now, I don't use TeamSpeak, so I can't say from experience how this is, how good this is, but it's a separate application that runs for TeamSpeak. You can see the chat room you're in and whichever player you're talking to at the present moment. If you use it, I imagine that's going to be a really handy thing for you. Okay, so a few things to say about the Venom interface. Firstly, it is kind of cool. It looks good. It is another talking point for the keyboard, really, I suppose. So in terms of cool factor, yeah, it's something that that draws the eye. Having said that, a lot of keyboards have this kind of operating system attached to them, and this one is fairly limited. It just kind of does those 12 things that you see there, and the various profile buttons around it. That means that unless somebody comes along and writes some apps for it in the future, what you see is what you get. I have no idea at the present moment whether apps will be unlocked at some point and you can add extra things on. I somehow doubt it. I could be wrong about that. Mad Catz, please correct us if that's planned. But what you've got is some basic functionality there. It's nice, it's usable, but don't expect any more than that at some time in the future. The other thing to mention is that actually it is an operating system in its own right, and it's controlled by the driver software for the keyboard. Now, when I first started using this keyboard, I did find it slightly flaky. It would crash on me every now and again if I lost power, which occasionally I do. If I lost some power, then it would reset itself and it would cause a driver failure, things like that. Having said that, with the latest driver update, it seems a lot more stable and seems to be behaving itself a lot more. So it is being actively supported by Mad Catz, but you should be aware that it is an operating system, another operating system to add to your already many operating systems that you probably have running, and like all operating systems, it has the potential to be flaky every now and again. So it's a cool thing. It's not absolutely essential to the operation of the keyboard, but it's something, as I say, that is going to cause your mates to go, wow. And in that respect, it's definitely worth having. Welcome to the penultimate part of our video review of the Catz S.T.R.I.K.E 7 keyboard, and this is the one where we look at the software. This is a recent version of the software, version 7.22, and as I say, I've found this generally a good iteration of the software with fewer problems than the previous early versions I was having a play with. Now, very quickly go through this to let you know what it can do and what it can't do. I'm going to click on the programming tab just there, and essentially what you have along this side of the screen are the various different components of the keyboard that you can define macros for. So you've got this kind of spined unit that has four macros that can be attached to it. Very easy to hit in a firefight. So they're handy. You also have 12 different macros that can be defined using the VENOM screen, and these are just split into the first 6 and second 6 using this software. You can also attach macros to the left and right scroll button and the quick use button that comes with the key rest, useful for right-handed people, not so useful for left-handed people. And there are another 5 macros that come along with the numeric keypad. So altogether, loads and loads of macros that you can define with this keyboard, and every single one of them can come in 3 different modes, so that immediately multiplies the number of macros by 3. If you need to select them very quickly in the heat of a game, you just use the VENOM keypad and the big buttons that it has there, which I'm doing right now off screen. So you can see that that defines a completely different set of macros for you. What you need to do is set up a profile for each particular game or set of games that you want to use. So I've set this one up called Skyrim, for example, and what I've done is in my first profile I've set the main weapon to be key press 1, a fireball spell, both hands in Skyrim casting fireballs, so that would be 2-2 on my keyboard, and I press M2 and it calls up 2-2 and it does it in the blink of an eye. Big heal, so lots of healing spell in each hand, 3-3, and my bow on 4. So when I press one of these macro keys, I've essentially set it up so that in the background it's equivalent to pressing 4 in this instance, and it calls up my bow. So pretty straightforward to use, much like any other software editing that you might have with any other programmable keyboard, just lots and lots of various different options. The one thing to mention is that I haven't found a way of actually associating a profile with an executable. So essentially you have to manually start them every single time. What you do have the option is that when the driver software loads, it loads up a default profile for you. But it doesn't have the option that you can go between games and it will automatically pull in a profile that you've set up for that game. That's something that you'd need to do yourself. But apart from that, not bad functionality and quite nice to use. Here's where you set your launcher. So if you remember earlier we talked about the VENOM interface, and you can basically use it as a place to store icons to launch your applications. If I wanted Alan Wake on there, for example, I'll just select Alan Wake, and there you go, that's done. I can now stab away at Alan Wake on the VENOM keypad and Alan Wake will start for me. And finally you've got various internal options there: show startup tips page, new drivers, download game profiles. Mad Catz have set up an awful lot of those for you, so you don't have to do that yourself. Read the manual and contact them. So altogether, adequate software for running your keyboard. That's it then, we've reached the end of our video review of the Mad Catz S.T.R.I.K.E 7 gaming keyboard, and there's just time for one or two final thoughts about it. And I suppose the first final thought is just, wow, this is after all a keyboard that's designed to make you go, wow. Everything about it, from the modular design through to the fancy lighting through to the interface itself, it's designed to make your jaw drop. I would think that if you bought this keyboard you'd have a big grin on your face for quite some time. It's a very desirable object indeed. The other thing to mention is the key response. I found the keys fairly soft to use, quite pleasant to use, and they certainly cut down on my number of typos. There's a medium resistance and a medium level of noise from them, which is quite a good thing. Now, I'm told it's very similar to a cherry brown keyboard, although of course this is actually a membrane keyboard, and it's a membrane keyboard so you can get those fancy full keyboard lighting effects from it. There are just one or two areas that I do have slight reservations, and they're more missed opportunities than reservations on this keyboard. And the first is that fancy VENOM unit. It's a good thing, it looks great, but it does only have those 12 applications. There's definitely an opportunity for Mad Catz to develop more applications and allow them to be downloaded, so you can get more customizability out of that unit. At the present moment it does the kind of things that any other gaming keyboard does. And the other thing to mention is that as it's set up, the keyboard has a slight bias towards right-handers. That's because the active wrist rest that you can see, the one with the button and the left-right scroll wheel, that's really designed for right-handers. It'd be great if there was a left-hand variant for that. And a similar related thing is that if you want to take the numeric keypad and put it on the left of your main keyboard, you have to use an extension lead. It won't lock into place firmly like the rest of the units will. It only locks into place on the right hand side. So if that bothers you, that's something to be aware of. But you know, very, very small complaints here. Overall, it gets a big thumbs up. It's a really pleasant keyboard to use. It's a jaw-dropping keyboard to look at as well. So, score, I suppose. Well, I'm not going to give you a score. If you want to see the overall score that we gave the keyboard, you'll have to visit our website. That's plughead.net, where you'll also find an index of this video so that you can just go back and look at the bits that you're interested in again without having to view the whole thing. In the meantime, thank you very much for watching. I've been Rob for plughead.net, and we've been reviewing the Mad Catz S.T.R.I.K.E 7 gaming keyboard.